Hello and welcome to NCRMD. Today we'll be looking at 3 different scenarios in order to determine who is legally responsible for actions occurring while possessed, you or the possessing entity. Scenario 1. You are possessed by an angel where it performs some much needed smiting. Unfortunately, this keeps you too busy to shovel your sidewalk after a snowstorm. As a result, the mailman slips, falls, breaks his leg, and wishes to sue for negligence. But who does he have a successful claim against? Well, there's a standard of care that requires you to keep your sidewalk clean. However, the key question here is who owed a duty of care. The angel is not the homeowner and has no legal responsibility for keeping the property safe, nor is he in any sort of approximate relationship to the mailman that requires him to take his safety into consideration. You, however, are, and you, not the angel, have been negligent in failing to keep your sidewalk clear. Scenario 2. A demon is possessing you and is using your body to drive downtown to purchase supplies for something you don't want to think too much about. The sunlight is very bright and is irritating your eyes. The demon, used to the darkness and flickering flames of hell, is having difficulty seeing. It chooses to continue driving despite this, and runs down and injures a small child. Who's negligent this time? Once again, we look for a duty of care. The demon was in control of your body and through it the vehicle. Therefore, it had a duty to the other drivers and to pedestrians nearby, who should have been in its mind when it made the decision to continue to drive. As a result, this demon can be sued for negligence. But this doesn't mean you're off the hook. You are in control of the vehicle as well, and therefore also owe a duty of care. And since the law doesn't make allowances for idiosyncrasies of the mind, we must now ask, is possession an idiosyncrasy? Or is it such a complete and total loss of control that you can no longer be held responsible for your actions? Like a truck driver who falls unconscious at the wheel due to an unrealized condition. If you can prove that you didn't maintain any awareness or control while possessed, then you won't be legally responsible. However, if you still had even a minuscule amount of control, then you and the demon are both legally responsible for this accident. Now let's move on from negligence with scenario 3. You are possessed by a ghost who wishes to complete its unfinished business of committing every criminal and regulatory offense possible within Canada. Wow, you have some horrible luck. But let's look at which of these offenses you'll be held legally responsible for. We're going to split these into 3 categories. First is absolute liability regulatory offenses. For these, all that needs to be proven is that you actually committed the act, which physically you did. However, once you're found legally responsible for this, there can't be any prison sentence, even as a punishment for non-payment of the fine. Therefore, after being possessed by this type of spirit, this is probably going to be the least of your worries. Second, strict liability regulatory offenses. These are going to be a bit of a gray area for you. For these, once it's proven that you actually physically committed the act, then there's a presumption that you are guilty. However, this presumption can be rebutted if it's shown that you were duly diligent in trying to avoid committing this offense. Your liability here is going to hinge upon what the courts consider to be due diligence. This will vary with every situation, but may require that you tried to fight off the ghost or avoid possession in the first place. Where you could argue that this was a third-party interference, if the court is willing to accept possession as a real problem, then there's a good chance that they would expect citizens to at least take some steps to avoid being possessed and forced to carry out crimes. Lastly, and most seriously, are the mens rea offenses and the true criminal offenses. But the good news is, you're in the clear for these ones. These offenses require not only that the Crown prove that you committed the offense, the actus rea, but also that you had the requisite intent to do so, the mens rea. In this case, the offense was physically committed by you, but the mens rea belonged to the ghost. So technically, no one was legally responsible for these actions. So, assuming you can prove that you were possessed at the time, you should be able to avoid legal responsibility for the most serious offenses. For the less serious ones, a lot is going to depend on how good your anti-possession defenses were. And the ghost is not going to be legally responsible for anything. I hope this segment has been helpful to you. Make sure you tune in next week when my colleagues will be discussing yet another important legal issue. Thank you for watching NCRMD.